The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world. And thanks to Biden's open door policies, today there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That's why on my first day back in office, I directed the Secretary of State to perform a security review of high-risk regions and make recommendations for where restrictions should be imposed. Among the national security threats their analysis considered are the large-scale presence of terrorists, failure to cooperate on visa security, inability to verify travelers' identities, inadequate record-keeping of criminal histories, and persistently high rates of illegal visa overstays, and other things. Very simply, we cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed. The list is subject to revision based on whether material improvements are made, and likewise, new countries can be added as threats emerge around the world. But we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're taking a deep dive today into a pretty significant new development affecting travel into the United States.
Yeah, that's right. And our source material for this is an article that sort of walks through the details of a recent order signed by the U.S. president.
So our mission really is to just go through this order, using the article as our guide. We want to understand who's affected, look at the reasons the administration is giving, and put it in context.
Exactly. It's about trying to get past maybe some of the noise and focus on the essential facts as they're presented in this particular source.
And the headline fact is definitely impactful. Travel is being banned or restricted from quite a few countries.
That really is the core of it. The article we're looking at reports that on Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, the president signed an order putting these significant travel restrictions into place.
And the article notes, right away, that this action kind of revives and even expands on travel restrictions we saw during his first term. We'll definitely need to connect back to that history a bit later. But first, what's the scope? What does this order actually do, according to the article?
Well, the article details that the order targets nationals from 19 different countries, broken down into two main categories.
Okay.
First, there are 12 countries where nationals face full restrictions on entering the U.S.
And those, let me see, the article lists them as Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a substantial list.
It really is.
And then the article states that nationals from another 7 countries face partial restrictions.
Okay, who's on that list?
That would be Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela.
So 19 nations in total hit by this new proclamation. Now, why? How does the administration justify this, at least based on what's in the article? What reasons are given? So according to the article, the president cited the usual things like foreign policy, national security, and counterterrorism goals. Those were presented as the basis for picking these countries.
I think I also saw the article mention an extra concern, something about visitors overstaying visas.
Yes, exactly. The article includes that as another stated justification. And the president, the source reports, actually made a very specific link to a recent event, sort of to underscore the need for this ban.
Right. This is where the article details a key part of the administration's message. It says in a video message, the president connected the ban directly to an attack that happened recently.
That's right. The attack by an Egyptian national, it says, at an event in Boulder, Colorado, an event showing support for Israeli hostages.
Okay.
And the president, as the article quotes him, stated this incident, underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them.
Strong words there. The article also includes his comment that this list of countries isn't necessarily, set in stone.
Right. He apparently said it's, quote, subject to revisions based on whether material improvements are made by those countries.
And potentially could grow.
Yeah. And that, quote, likewise, new countries could be added as threats emerge around the world.
Okay. So the administration frames it as this dynamic security measure. But the article pretty quickly pivots to other viewpoints, right? Those pushing back.
It does, yes. It immediately brings in viewpoints that strongly counter that reasoning.
So what are advocates and experts quoted or referenced in the article saying about these bans? What's their take?
Well, the article presents their view pretty clearly. They see these sweeping bans as fundamentally discriminatory.
Discriminatory how?
Arguing they're based mainly on ethnicity or national origin, rather than any specific individual risk assessment.
And the consequences they predict, they sound pretty familiar from the last time around.
Exactly. The source anticipates severe real-world impacts. Things like families being separated, which is huge.
Yeah.
Also, potential harm to the U.S. economy and negative effects on communities here in the U.S. that have, strong ties to people from these countries.
The article actually includes a specific quote on this, I think, from Representative Pramila Jayapal.
Yes, she's quoted. She calls the policy discriminatory, says it limits legal immigration pathways, and in her view, it, quote, not only flies in the face of what our country is supposed to stand for, it will be harmful to our economy and communities that rely on the contributions of people who come to America from this wide range of countries.
And the source itself flags that putting restrictions on places like Haiti, Cuba, and Venezuela could be especially impactful.
Right, because there are such large immigrant populations from those specific countries already living in U.S. communities. Makes sense.
Yeah. What's interesting, too, is how the article sort of zooms out a bit. It doesn't just look at this travel ban in isolation. It puts it into this broader context of what it calls hardline immigration policies from the administration.
Right, it connects the dots. So what other examples does the source use to illustrate that larger context?
Well, the article mentions things like blocking asylum claims down to the southern border.
Okay.
And also canceling temporary protected status TPS for immigrants who came from countries, facing major humanitarian crises.
Right. I remember TPS being a big point of contention before.
Definitely. And there was even a kind of a surprising detail about student visas in there, too.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
The article highlights a proclamation that restricts foreign student visas, but specifically at Harvard University.
Just Harvard.
Just Harvard, it seems. And it also ordered U.S. consulates to start doing social media screening for visa applicants wanting to go study there.
Wow. Okay. That's very specific.
It is. But it does paint this picture, as the article suggests, of a wider, maybe tougher approach to immigration and entry into the U.S. overall.
For sure. And as we mentioned right at the start, the article makes a really strong connection back to the president's first term. This isn't totally out of the blue.
No, it shows this has been talked about. The article reports he'd kind of signaled wanting to bring back a ban like this during his campaign.
Yeah, I recall the article quoting or paraphrasing some of that rhetoric. Things like banning refugee resettlement from, quote, terror-infested areas like the Gaza Strip.
Right, and promising to, quote, seal our border and bring back the travel ban.
Yeah.
And those references to not taking people from, quote, infested countries.
Yeah, pretty charged language there. And the initial rollout of the first ban back in January 2017, well, the article describes that as leading to immediate, pretty widespread disruption.
Oh, absolutely. You had chaos at airports all over the country, right?
Yeah.
Spontaneous protests just popping up.
Yeah.
Civil rights lawyers rushing in to try and help travelers who were caught up in it.
And it immediately ran into big legal challenges. Federal courts initially blocked it, citing civil liberties concerns.
But that first ban eventually made its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they allowed it to stand, didn't they?
They did. And this part of the history, as the article lays it out, really shows these sharply different interpretations of what the ban was.
Oh, so?
Well, the article reports the Supreme Court's decision said the ban didn't target Muslims, even though it initially included several Muslim-majority countries.
Right.
Their reasoning, as the source explains it, was basically that it fell within the president's national security powers. It was permissible.
Okay, but the article also presents a counterpoint to that specific legal interpretation, right?
Yeah.
From CR, the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Yes, and it's important, like the source does, to just present both these views neutrally. CR is quoted in the article saying, the Muslim ban's bigotry should have been as clear to the Supreme Court as it is to the Muslims demonized by it. They continue, apparently everyone but the Supreme Court can see the decision for what it is, an expression of animosity. So that really highlights the deep disagreement over the ban's core nature, which the source captures.
Yeah, very different views on the same ruling. And the first-term ban, the article adds, didn't stop there. It was actually expanded later, in 2020.
That's right, to include several more countries like Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, Nigeria, Myanmar, Tanzania, and Sudan.
And then the article notes that these first-term bans, they were among the measures that President Joe Biden ended pretty quickly, right after he took office in 2021.
Correct. They were rescinded early in his term.
Okay, so let's try and pull together what this article lays out for us. We have this new expanded order from June 4th, 2025, affecting 19 countries, and it seems to pick up where a previous policy left off.
And the administration's justification, according to the source, rests on foreign policy, national security, counterterrorism, and also these visa overstay concerns.
Plus, they specifically pointed to that Boulder attack as kind of evidence of the danger.
But then the source shows there's really strong opposition. Critics arguing it's discriminatory based on ethnicity and that it'll cause real harm to families, the economy, communities here.
And the article makes it clear this isn't just a one-off thing. It's presented as part of a larger immigration policy approach from this administration.
Exactly. And it has this whole complex history from the first term, including major legal battles that went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Where, as we saw, interpretations about its actual intent still differ really sharply.
Absolutely.
So why is digging into these details from this article important for you, the listener?
Well, it's about getting past just the headlines, isn't it?
I think so. It helps you understand the actual reach of this policy. Who does it touch?
Right, and how the administration frames its purpose versus how critics see it.
And the potential impacts the source describes the real-world stuff. Plus, seeing its place in the ongoing story of U.S. immigration policy. That history and context the article provides is key. Understanding those nuances helps you really grasp the scope and, the potential implications far beyond just a simple ban is back headline.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so thinking about that history, especially those big legal fights and frankly, the social upheaval the first ban caused.
Yeah.
It does leave you with a key question that the article kind of implicitly raises.
Which is?
Well, given that precedent, what kinds of future challenges, maybe legal, maybe social, might this new expanded order face down the road? Something to think about.